And welcome back. So in the last video, I was talking about which Seahawks players would be able to make it into our 53-man or at least in the practice squad. So the first person I did mention was Levy Bell. I did mention before in the video his potential on making the 53-man, and not only his potential but his talents, the way he flourished, especially in the fourth quarter in the preseason game for the Vikings. Now, if you guys want to check out that video, go check it out. I already have it uploaded. Please like it, and I hope you subscribe. As of now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about another player. So we're going to go ahead and continue with our series. Again, I apologize that I basically upload very late. I have a lot of time in my hands that is taken up. You know, work and kids, what can you do? But in any event, so the next player that we're going to be talking about that has the ability to make it on the 53-man roster, and I would like to see this person make it a 53-man roster, is wide receiver Matt Landers. All right, so let's just get down to the nitty-gritties of Matt Landers. So Matt Landers initially was a three-star recruit from Georgia. He was with Georgia for the previous 3 years, no, 4 years, I believe. 4 years with them. He sat out for 2 years. The first year he didn't play at all. The second year, apparently he played in 10 games and only had one catch. And then afterwards, he transferred to Toledo, which actually gave him a starting opportunity, or at least gave him some playing time. At least I want to say, in that year, he mustered up 514 yards and 5 touchdowns on 13 games. So take that as you will. Again, he's was in a smaller school like Toledo, so. And I don't know much about how they run their schemes. I don't know if they're a pass-happy offense. I don't know if they're a running team. But that is a little low for a guy who is coming out of Georgia, was a wide receiver prospect for Georgia, was a three-star recruit, and then went to Toledo and only made 514 yards. I apologize. 514 yards. So in a sense, that's a little disappointing, which makes sense why he went back to college to play one more year. And thankfully, Arkansas gave him the opportunity to not only try out and be part of the team, but make the team and basically be their premier receiver. In terms of that season for Arkansas, he had 47 receptions, 901 yards, and 8 touchdowns on 13 games. Now, that's the one thing that I want to emphasize. So far, he doesn't miss games. He's completely available, always seems to be fresh, and is willing to play, which is great, which is something that in many people's cases may be a small thought, but for me, it's a huge thought. Because one of my favorite traits is the best trait is to be available. You know, the best ability is to be available, always available. So it's nice to see that Landers has never had a serious injury, has never had lingering injuries, anything that has affected his career in terms of injuries in the NFL or in college. But the thing that does shock me about Matt Landers, especially reading his profile, his measurements, all that, he hasn't had a lot of production. Though he was their main receiver in Arkansas, I feel like Matt Landers, for what he is bringing to the table, especially in a physical presence that he has, I felt as though he could have been easily a 1,000-yard receiver in a lot of programs. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about his physical measurements. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. That is what the Seahawks are measuring him as. There's a lot of draft scouts and all that, you know, when you're trying to get the measurements. A lot of places have him at 6'5". But I don't know. It's not that I know what 6'5" looks like. But I think I feel more comfortable him being 6'4", 200 pounds, because it seems like when I actually look at him, that's about the right size. Whereas when I look at Jake Bobo, who is a 6'5", 200-something pound guy, he does look big, like maybe bigger, 6'6". So, I'm not trying to knock on Landers' size, because it's clear in terms of receivers and measurements, he's in the top percentile for being long and tall, and not too heavy or too skinny. He's right at the average age, right at that point of 200 pounds. But I feel as though when I have seen him on the field, he doesn't look or play like he's 6'4". That's just my opinion. I'm sure people think I'm wrong, especially with the whole Seahawks catch that he did on the preseason game. He did look big when he caught that catch. But again, overall, when I see him play, especially when I was watching his highlights in Arkansas, he doesn't play bigger than his size. But the one thing that I did notice is that he is huge after the ball play. Once he catches the ball, yards after the catch, he racks him up. You know, I like that. As soon as he has the ball, he has the ability to be a playmaker. And I also do appreciate that he doesn't go down easily. You know, most receivers, or some receivers, not most, some receivers really don't like to get hit. Some receivers, as soon as they touch the ball, they go down. You know, and I understand, you know, prolonged longevity of the NFL, keep the career going longer and longer, not taking big hits. But I do appreciate Landers. As soon as he gets the ball, he's not afraid to run another 5-6 yards, get an extra 5-6 yards, carrying a defender before he's brought down. That I am impressed with. So I appreciate his tenacity. As soon as he catches the ball, he's like a man gone wild, trying to rack up more yards. I like that in a wide receiver. I like that in any ball carrier. So it's good to see him actually use his size to the defenders so they don't so they don't pull him down. Okay. Another thing to note, that Arkansas does have a decent quarterback. In my opinion, he's decent compared to other quarterbacks in the college stream, I guess, or streamline, whatever you guys call it. But that's KJ Jefferson. KJ Jefferson, the one thing I don't like about him is just he doesn't really have real accuracy on throwing the ball. He has a heck of an arm, and he has a nice physical stature. Like, he's probably as a cloned Cam Newton in terms of physical presence, being also 6'5", 230 pounds, and choosing to run a lot of cases. KJ will scramble. But the thing that I did appreciate about Matt Landers playing with KJ is KJ was very comfortable throwing him the ball to him. As soon as KJ felt pressure, as soon as he checked all his reads, I felt as though Matt Landers was his security option a lot of the times. And there was a lot of times where he would throw the ball to Matt Landers when Matt Landers was not open and would not even receive the ball. So it would be incomplete. But again, that should tell you something about Matt Landers. That should tell you something about why KJ Jefferson will trust Landers. I mean, let's be fair. Even for 900 yards, apparently he is still their leading receiver. So that should tell you something. Another thing to note with KJ, I'm not KJ. I'm sorry, apologies. Another thing to know about Matt Landers is that he actually, as soon as he started playing with Arkansas, it felt as though it was a perfect fit. It felt as though KJ was able to really ease in and finally feel as though he has a secure number one wide receiver option. And maybe it may have made sense because, you know, he was a three-star recruit. He has to have some kind of real ability to, you know, to be picked off by Georgia and stuck with Georgia for the last 4 years. So these are going to be some numbers. I highlighted 3 games notably that in my opinion were Matt Landers' best games. So the number one game that he was dominant, and if you go back and watch his video, Matt Landers is dominating the entire game, is BYU. BYU, he had 8 receptions for 99 yards. The most yards he had in one reception was 39, but he had 3 touchdowns. KJ was slinging it to him. And it was, I'm telling you, that was probably the most memorable game of Matt Landers' career, in my opinion, because it really does show his nature of not only catching balls that were thrown out of the way, but more importantly, being a big red zone threat and being a deep threat as he's throwing the balls to him and getting those touchdowns. That impressed me. Another one game that I want to highlight is Liberty. The Liberty game, he had 6 receptions for 119 yards, and the max reception was 36 in the reception. So that's still pretty good. I mean, 6 receptions. So that's another thing to consider, is that if we're going to be using Matt Landers in a volume standpoint, it seems as though he has no problem catching above 5 or even 10. Now, The one game that I do want to highlight is, this is the last game I'll highlight, is him against Kansas. His last game, he had 3 receptions for 121 yards. That's averaging over 40 yards a catch. His longest catch was 59 yards, and he had 1 touchdown. Now, when you see that play, there was again, straight go route, throws it off. That's the one thing I was real impressed with Landers, is that his go routes are impressive. He is a burner, and the one thing I genuinely noticed when once he got behind the backfield and was running, he was by far the fastest. There was no one that's going to catch him. So that's promising news for the Seahawks if we decide to keep him and use him in go option strings, you know. But in any event, so just by and large, the numbers I mentioned in college, that was his best season in college. That's his best season ever, is those 901 yards, 8 touchdowns in 13 games, averaging 19.2 yards per catch. And to be fair, that's pretty good. I think that's very good, especially for a receiver that has not been drafted or had any considerations in draft. Now, let's go ahead and talk about his combine numbers. This is what also impressed me. His combine he ran a 4.37. I looked all around other places. They had him run like a 4.31. I saw one that said 4.42, but more concrete, the majority of the combines, it's 4.3. So 4.37, that seems to be the most medium that I've found. He just jumped a 37-inch jump, so he has some hops. His broad jump is what impresses me. He jumps a 10-foot, 10-inch jaw jump. That's pretty big leap for just standing. He's got some hops. I like that. So these are some pros that I was able to see in his game, along with, reading some scouting reports, and I can agree with what they also had to say as well. But I've also put a little bit of things of my own. So these are some of the pros about him. Number one, of course, he's a big, long receiver with serious speed. The guy has burner speed for being 6'4". That's impressive. Another thing to note, just like I mentioned, he's very physical, especially hard to bring down. If you have smaller defenders, it's going to be very tough to wrap around Landers. Landers can break away, and since he has plenty of speed, he can break away and get away, which is something that we would like in our receivers, is being able to not only get physical enough to get away, but have the actual speed and power to go further to the touchdown, which I love. I'm sure, as you guys saw in the Seahawks game, he has shown big playability. As I've also mentioned in college, he has no problem running go routes, catching bombs, catching plays for over 20 yards. It's something that he seems to be more of a specialist towards, because as I went through his entire season last year, his average yards per catch was pretty high. Unfortunately, it didn't give me a season average, but as I looked through and did my own average, it was pretty high. Like, I want to say over 20, because I didn't even write, I should have wrote that number down as I did the average, but he did. It's still impressive. His average per catch is impressive, and I like the fact that he is a real deep threat. He's a true deep burner go router. I like that. Okay, so as I mentioned before, once he gets in the backfield, he's gone. It's going to take a very fast, maybe Tariq Woolen style fast to catch him. So that's good. He has really long run stride. So once he's running, he's already covering yards. It's because he's such a tall guy. His legs are covering yards as he's running. So with that long stride, just one step is like 3 yards, which is good. That's something that you would want. You want more yards in your receivers when they move. So that's good. I like that. One thing that I did note, not only in the Seahawks game, but as I was watching KJ Jefferson throw some dumbass passes to Matt Landers in some cases, Matt Landers is really good at tracking the ball. I like his ability to focus on the quarterback, and more importantly, he not only does he trust him, because there's some throws that KJ threw that he was just lucky to throw at him, and it was perfect accuracy. But there was times where I saw Matt Landers turn around, clean up the play, catch the ball, and make KJ look better. I mean, all in all, after seeing Matt Landers' after seeing all the Matt Landers highlights, I didn't realize how terrible KJ was as throwing the ball. Like, I knew he didn't have the best accuracy. He had a hell of an arm, and he has a hell of a physical stature, physical frame. But the guy can't throw it like straight. It's tough. But now that I've like really looked deep down into seeing Matt Landers, I kept focusing more on KJ, like throwing the ball away half the times and rushing the ball, of course. But again, you cannot control what your quarterback does. You can only help your quarterback when you're available. And that's what Matt Landers does. And I can appreciate him being available for him. Now, let's see. There's some things that I did not like about Matt Landers. So I'm going to go ahead and bring some of it up. The one thing that really was very apparent for me when I was looking at his tape was that he constantly waits for the ball. As soon as he finishes his route, and it's like, for example, just a simple hitch route, a 5 or 10 yard hitch route or a curl, he will stay stationary. He won't move. He won't do a second move. He won't find as soon as the ball's coming to him, or in some situations like that, he stands like a statue. And to me, that's very, very bad, because there's a lot of NFL cornerbacks that are going to take full advantage of that. If Matt Landers is being passive on the play, expecting the ball to come to him because he doesn't have to move, that's not going to be like that in the NFL. The cornerbacks in the NFL are going to push him off. They're going to do anything in their power to tap that ball. And with me, when I see Landers, the majority of his catches aren't too fully contested. In fact, they're almost easy catches in a lot of cases. Don't get me wrong, he's not an easy catch receiver, because a lot of his go routes and a lot of his over the shoulder catches are impressive, and they were very impressive to see. But I felt as though when I kept watching more Matt Landers routes, not only were they rather limited, I don't see many slant routes or any up the middle routes. All I see is, I think the thing that he's real comfortable with is just go route combos. And what I mean by a go route combo is he'll probably do a 2-step or 3-step and then end his route in a go. Or he'll do probably 5 yards up, he'll do a double move and then end it with the go, or end it with the streak, or a post. You know, he'll run on the post, on a corner post. But the whole point is that a lot of his route running, especially when I was watching his tape, was going downfield. There was never cuts. There's no going in the middle. There was never slants, really. He was just more of a north to south route runner, which, hey, you know, some people don't want that, and some people do. But that's just something that I found was a con, that he has very limited route running tree. And even then, the route running that he can do, it's very specific. Like, again, go route, streaks, post, those are the best that he can do because of his size and his speed. Got to make the most of what he can. Another thing, just like I mentioned before, because he plays very conservative and passive in the play game when they throw the ball to him, I've actually seen more physical corners in college actually reroute him out of his own route when he's running a route. So there's times where when the ball's being thrown to him, especially on a go route, and there's a physical enough receiver, the corner will be able to just guide him out of bounds, and he won't be able to catch it. That's the thing with Landers. Even though Landers on the preseason game showed that he has tenacity to catch the ball, all that was kind of a fluke. I mean, let's be honest. The guy who fell in front of Matt Landers before he caught the ball, he actually tripped. If you guys really do see that play, the defender Barnes, he tripped on himself and then fell down, whereas Matt Landers was able to stop on a dime, jump, and catch the ball. I appreciate that. That's something that I wanted out of Landers, but that's not what I'm trying to say. That Landers, honestly, in my opinion, got lucky on that play. He got very lucky on that play, because I felt as though Barnes, if he didn't trip over on himself, he would have at minimum at least stopped it there. If he caught the ball, he would have stopped him right there. But instead, Landers does what he does best, which is just like what I mentioned before. He uses his size to his advantage, is able to break away 2 defenders, and produces the yards after the catch to get the touchdown. Granted, the touchdown was only 10 yards away, but that's 10 yards more than he did when he didn't catch it. So there you go. But again, in terms of what I don't like, that's something I do not like. It's just he's very passive on the passing game. And when someone's throwing the ball to him, he's really weak on trying to catch that ball. But he still has the ability to catch the ball. Trying to think of what else that I wrote. Other than that, the limited trees, waiting for very, very passive again in terms of catching the ball. Those are probably the only few things I can think of in terms of pure cons. I think again, most notably, the biggest con is just both limited route running, not seeing any slants in basically the entire season. He didn't really run slants or any additional routes that went east to west. He was more of just straight north-south. And another thing, again, he's just not too physical when it comes to catching the ball once the ball is coming to him. Now, in terms of preseason, he did do well. He had 3 targets, 1 reception, 30 yards, 1 touchdown. We all know that play. Now, after bringing this all up and giving this information to y'all, will Matt Landers make the 53? Well, he does have a lot of luck going for him right now. Because right now, Kate Johnson, Cody Thompson, Derek Young, and, of course, D. Eskridge, 4 players, 4 wide receivers, are either A, not participating because they're injured, or B, won't participate because they will get suspended soon. So, that leads me to believe we have 3 receivers for sure. That's JSN, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf. Now we have Jake Bobo, who is fresh and awake. I think he will definitely make the 53 from what I'm seeing. We have Eric Winston, or I think it's Winston Jr. I don't know if it's Eric Winston, but Winston Jr. and Lindsley. Now, granted, Lindsley and Winston Jr. shined. In fact, notably Winston Jr. when he caught that nice touchdown that Drew Lock threw to him, like right on the, as soon as Drew, you know what I mean, like when Drew just zipped it through the defender and was able to catch it and get the touchdown for Winston. Now, as I mentioned, all these receivers already, there is 4 of them that are either suspended or injured. Well, 3 of them are injured and 1 is going to be suspended. So does that leave enough room for Matt Landers to make the 53 total roster? Well, this is where I'm actually going to get a little bit controversial. I actually don't think Matt Landers will make the entire 53-man roster. Everything that I mentioned, yes, it's positive. Everything that I mentioned about him was good. He's had great seasons when he's played. And more importantly, he hasn't had any major injuries, and he's, in my opinion, fresh. Because he's in his college career, he barely played. Only this last year was his biggest breakout year because it was his only real year. But do I think he's going to make the 53-man? Honestly, no. I don't think he's going to make the 53-man. But is he going to make the practice squad? I want to say yes. I really do. But if all those other receivers become healthy and are able to make it past week 3 preseason, unfortunately, I think Matt Landers will be met at the cut line by either week 2 of this preseason, which is this coming week, or next week. Now, in order for that to happen, the following people have to step up: Cody Thompson, Kate Johnson, Derek Young. Those 3 players just have to step up in any way. And then Matt Landers would take the exit out. He would be our next man cut out, unfortunately, just due to the way it's formatted. Matt Landers is still the bottom. I mean, Lindsley has technically been here before him, from what I've already seen and been told. But in any case, besides all of that, my answer is no. He will not make the 53. And if all these players come back healthy, it's going to be hard for me to vouch that he'll make the practice squad. But do I want him in the practice squad? Absolutely. there is a lot of talent that I see in this guy, and he's only played so much football. So if he's able to hone his craft more and become molded into a better receiver, maybe start learning some route trees from Tyler Lockett or JSN, become more of an east-west kind of route runner since he already has the north-south route running great. I think this would be a great project. My only problem with Matt Landers is he is 24 years old. Granted, most receivers don't leave until like 31, 32, so he has plenty of time. But will he get better within the next year or 2 or 3 years? That's something that I'm worried about. And even if he does get better within 3 years, he's going to be 27, 28 years old at some point. So at that point, when he hits his prime and has everything going for him, he has all the tools in his bag, he's only going to be effective for about 3-4 more years. And then by then, are the Seahawks really going to use him, or is he going to be for another team? Now, do you see what I mean? Now, again, I'm just going to say it again. I want him on my team. I think Matt Landers is a great player. In fact, I think his skill sets would match very well in Seattle. But I do not see him making the 53-man or the practice squad. I may get a lot of hate for this, but I'm just keeping it real. I'm keeping it cool. And just emphasize, I want Landers in our team. But it's just not seeming to be the case if every other receiver here either shines or gets healthy enough to shine in these next 2 coming preseasons. But other than that, that is my opinion on Matt Landers. Again, I do think he's a great wide receiver. I do like where he came from in terms of coming from Georgia, sitting out, learning from some of the best wide receivers in some cases, I'm sure, going to Toledo, then starting his real career in Arkansas. Unfortunately, it was a little later than it should have been because he sat in Georgia for 4 years, basically. But all in all, I really like Landers. I do. I feel as though maybe if he stayed as a super senior, or maybe this may have been his super senior year, or maybe try to do like a Stephen Bennett or whatever, and stayed like a 5th or 6th year, I think it would have really benefited him. And then maybe this coming draft, he probably could have made a 6th or 7th round draft pick, maybe, or even sooner. Because the only reason why I'm mentioning this is because KJ Jefferson stayed in the college football. So since KJ stayed, he would still have his number 1 receiver, Matt Landers, to flourish with. And Matt Landers would probably produce, and in fact, I can see him producing over 1,000 yards and maybe even more than what he produced in college. So that's it. That's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoy this chat. That's going to be my opinion on Matt Landers. I would like him to stay. I really do. But seeing the circumstances that he has to face and all the uphill battles all the uphill battles I'm seeing in front of him, especially in terms of the other receivers once they start becoming healthy and are given playing time, I really don't think Matt Landers is going to be able to last much longer. But if he does and he stays in the Packer squad, I am going to be very happy with Seattle's decision to keep him. All right? So again, I hope you guys enjoy this. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch to another topic and talk about another topic tomorrow. And I'm going to still continue this topic before Tuesday because I'm told Tuesday they might be doing the roster cuts, and we'll see who made it from there. And then after we review the roster cuts, maybe I'll be able to see why they got cut and maybe who we can keep ahead of time. All right? So again, thank you very much, everyone. I do appreciate y'all listening. And, go Hawks, baby.